You are listening to the Horse Radio Network, part of the Equine Network family.
You all know Boyd and whatnot, and I love speaking about him. He's amazing. It's just that these ideas, just that, he understands that. He understands the importance of, taking time come on now, he's got like what, 5, 6 horses rolling at a time sometimes, and it's just like, he knows to take time for himself, even in that. And that, my friend, is amazing because most people won't do that. Most people just muscle through and not take even like 10 minutes out of their, come on, what's 10 minutes? You can find 10 minutes. We can all find the time inside of that show to be like, hey, let me be mindful. Let me just plug off, turn off, and just kind of recalibrate and readjust so that I can go to my next ride and, and I'm much more relaxed and safe.
Welcome to the Practical Horseman podcast, featuring conversations with respected riders, industry leaders, and horse care experts. The show is co-hosted by Practical Horseman editors, and our goal is to inform, educate, and inspire. I'm Sandra Olenek, and this week's episode is with mental health and wellness coach Ruben Mahboobi. I first met Rubee in 2022 at the Kentucky 3-Day event, where he was assisting 4-time Olympian Boyd Martin as a wellness coach. Rubee and I chatted again in Kentucky last spring, and soon after we recorded this podcast interview. Though some time has passed since our discussion, I'm still as excited as ever to bring it to you now. In this episode, Rubee talks about what riders need to do to have balance in their lives and how that balance is the foundation of overall health. A healthy person, he says, who is balanced in body, mind, and spirit is a better rider and has more chance of achieving his or her goals. Though Rubee's clients involve those people at the tops of their fields, I think his advice can help riders of all disciplines and levels. We can be so focused on helping our horses be the healthiest and best they can be that many of us forget about ourselves. But our health and well-being is a critical part of our success and overall happiness. For a little more on Rubee, he assists clients with maximizing their performance and achieving or surpassing their short and long-term goals. His coaching style is grounded in his training as an executive and dignitary protection specialist and integrates meditation, yoga, mindfulness training, martial arts, and a spiritual perspective with conventional wellness modalities. His high-profile clients have included Olympic athletes, A-list celebrities, Grammy-award-winning musicians, corporate CEOs, medical and legal professionals, and internationally known artists. Rubee has a long list of educational certifications in yoga, massage, exercise, and more, including training at the Bodhidharma Institute in Pushkar, India. In addition to private practice, Rubee served as a holistic therapist for the psychiatric department at Bellevue Hospital Center in New York City, and he worked with the city's Department of Health and Mental Hygiene at Rikers Island Jail, leading trauma-sensitive yoga and therapy workshops for incarcerated men and adolescents. Finally, Rubee is an amateur dressage rider who is also involved in music production. Before getting into this conversation with Rubee, I'd like to share a word from this episode's sponsor, Boehringer Ingelheim. Empowering excellence in every horse. As a global leader in equine health, Boehringer Ingelheim is focused on sharing our passion to improve the life of every horse. We understand that no one cares for a horse alone. It takes a whole network of passionate people to provide the highest level of care. Our team goes beyond our comprehensive product portfolio to support veterinarians, equine care professionals, and horse owners alike in raising equine health to an art form. To learn more about our philosophy of care, visit theartofhorse.com. That's theartofhorse.com. Now, let's jump right into the conversation with Rubee, where he starts by talking about how he works with his clients.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. And this is a wellness practice, it's a wellness coaching construct where my practice and my business is basically has kind of a 3 or 4 prong approach, which is basically protecting, training, advising, and healing a person's body and mind, making it a holistic kind of approach to wellness, taking all the factors into account. So that's mostly that, is the work that I do, which is basically taking all those pieces of a person's being into account. Because if we just concentrate on one part, that's fine. We have specialists for that, who do that. But we've come to find out that we have to take the whole person into account. And that's very important. So I have to pay attention to the diet, and the diet doesn't just include what they're eating, but what is being ingested. What are they taking in, musically, visually, things that we see, things that we hear, and we eat, these types of things are part of the diet, And when I do an intake with someone, we pay attention to the four primitive natures. And most of this is all a very kind of Eastern approach to healing and a modality. So a lot of people aren't as familiar with a lot of those practices, but we use a lot of them in our daily lives, and we just didn't know where they kind of come from. So, yeah. But the intake is simply the idea of understanding there are four kind of primitive natures that mankind, that's what we're talking about here, has, and that is, we have our eating, our sleeping, our sex life, and our work life. And I have to take all of those into account when I'm working and making sure that I'm protecting and again, coaching, healing, and advising on things that are good for the individual to be the best they can be and perform at a high level. I am also considered a high performance coach. And so that's because of the clients that I've had throughout my career that have to be on in a performance role, performance being in front of a TV, stage, government, at some point, where again, that the stakes are high and the stress levels are very challenging, and the decisions that people make impact their lives. And so that's a lot to describe kind of the work, but it's basically, but it's definitely just that. It's just a simple idea of how we can maximize the efficiency and the ability to get people to their goals and to their dreams in a healthy and a safe way.
Great. And you talked about, these four, I think you said protecting, training, advising, and healing. Can we break that down a little bit? So protecting.
So everything in the created world has protection. A baby inside of a womb, it's that sac, it's got protection even from from the host. Ideas, even. We have to protect our ideas, intellectual property, things like this, So in some form, and I mean that very literally, that it's created, it came with some kind of protection. The earth itself has a protection from the atmosphere. And so protection becomes kind of the foundation of my work, and that's kind of my history of. I went to school and trained in this executive and dignitary protection, and which is basically a high-end bodyguard. And I call myself the body man nowadays because as I'm doing all the work, with this holistic practice of self-protection, it's kind of new to a lot of people, that protecting not from outside forces as much as is protecting my clients from themselves has been kind of the thing. Again, doing, when someone just needs to even go to bed, you're staying up late, it's like, hey, you should be in bed. And it's like, yeah, it's a reminder, to get the amount of rest that's necessary, because sometimes we stand too close to the wall that we can't see the whole picture. So someone needs to be there. And if you are a professional, you want that in your life. You want, if we get sick, we go to a doctor. If my car breaks down, I go to a mechanic. We have to employ people who are specialists in the things that they do. to assist us to become greater. No man's an island, and I don't know anyone that's a high performer that doesn't have a team that's there to safeguard, protect them, and make them a better being. Yeah. And if they aren't doing that, they need to go.
Right. What, you mentioned the sleep, encouraging them to get sleep. What are some other forms that you work on? And I thought that was interesting what you said about protecting them from themselves, because that seems to be what we all need a little bit of.
Oh yeah, no, and yeah, no one's exempt from that assistance. I have a support crew for me, and again, you'd be so shocked at just the ideas of, when I told you about those primitive natures, and those primitive natures, we will kind of work with that as a format for this kind of topic we're talking about, which is eating, sleeping, sex, and work, self-preservation. That's basically what it is. So if they're in balance, that's not good. We have to keep them. We have to make sure that they are in balance, because a guitar that doesn't play, that's too tight, won't play, and if it's too loose, it can't play. So we're looking constantly for finding balance. You know what I mean? And it's not a matter, and we have to know how to administer certain things. You know what I mean? It's very important that we know when we're off balance or when we're in balance. And so that's what health is all about. Health is really about finding a homeostasis or a balance point. And sometimes we can become a little bit too extreme in those, in trying to come to that balance. And only really you can tell, but we can also, as the outside world, observe when someone is not, well or in balance, and they'll let you know, and that's a very important thing that we have to pay attention to, is that sometimes we think we're in balance, but then we can see that we're not. Like when someone, I love watching our, horse trainers and their students saying, hey, relax, or they're not in their balance or having the correct seat or posture. And you think you're sitting up correctly, and you're like, oh, no, okay. Because you think that you were, and in actuality, you're not. And so that's what I look forward to when I'm working my peeps, is that I understand that there is a possibility that they see themselves as okay and everything's great in that regard. But then once they see that there's an option for better, then they usually go to becoming, taking that choice to be better or to get stronger.
Yeah. Do you see that, I guess, can you give some examples maybe of how some of the people you work with maybe aren't in balance? Or I know everyone's an individual, but are there any common ways?
Is again trying to get regularity, which most, anyone in the health professions know that they would love to have things that are a little bit more regular in their lives. Regularity, even using the restroom, should become a little bit more regular as opposed to irregular. So in the way we take care of our horses, they love regularity in the sense of when they get their feeding done, they know when they don't get fed at the right time. You know what I mean? Or
right.
Or being taken care of. So, and if your personal life is interfering, I see a lot of memes out there now on social media. It's kind of fun. It's like, hey, you want to go out and hang out this weekend? No way, I got a horse. It's that kind of a thing where they know that they have a life that they're responsible for. And if you want a peaceful, beautiful horse, then you have to give them regularity and consistency in training and taking care of. And no different with humans. Humans need regularity for safety, structure, and security. And if we give each other that, wow, what a wonderful world would be, and a lot more peaceful we'll be. But we find it to be when people are not when they're not well with themselves, because their life is in a constant state of irregularity and stress, and don't know how to manage time. And if you don't know how to manage time, you're not going to be able to manage money, which I find a lot of funny things in this community, that people are constantly worried about their finances. But the idea is just that they also can't manage their own personal time and space. And so if you become more diligent and efficient in that, you'll start to see your riding is better. Your connection, because we're talking about connection, right? Connection and time, rhythm. Rhythm is time. Yeah. So again, if you can't manage time, you're not going to be able to manage money. You're not going to be able to actually connect and with another human being. And I'm not talking human and your equine partner. So, and that's the book I'm working on. Again, I think we talked about that before, is that I'm really looking at the way people love, and how it's like we ride the way we love. And I think that it resonates with a lot of people because we can start to see that, how we show up for love is kind of how we're showing up before. And we actually really have a very imbalanced in our love kind of partnerships, even with ourselves, with our equine friends, that we will spend more time giving them love than our own selves. And that's also in a form of self-care. We definitely invest more in, our equine partner, their care. And if there's an imbalance in that relationship, because you're the rider, you also need just as much self-care. And if that's not happening, there's going to be an imbalance in the relationship. And guess what? To be fair, ready for this? This is I find it deep, that, when you don't get what you need, you start holding resentment. And you don't think you are when you're riding, or you don't think that you're, fostering that energy with your horse. And it all comes out with jokes. But if we were to joke the same way we do with our equine friends as we would do our children, you'll start to see that's like a big deal, where it's like, hey, these horses take all my money, and I'm just frustrated, and my life is this, and then I try to find the peace, and I want my partner to give me, I'm talking equine partner, to bring me peace, but that's kind of a lot to ask.
That's fascinating. So, going back to the example of the, say the money or the, the time, how do you help people address, say like that example?
Right. Well, again, I'm telling you, like the people that I work, these high performers, oof, my gosh, they have to be better than me. Let's start with that. I always like my relationships where my people are a lot better than I am, meaning that it takes DCC, which I came up with this idea of this construct of, having these kind of disciplines. You have to have concentration and these control elements used holistically, though, right? Because if we don't have the discipline, and you'll see that's like very important, is the discipline aspect. I mean, and that's what I love about the horse community, because there's a lot of discipline. I mean, you start early, it's like any sport, where young people can get involved, they become more disciplined, they become better, they're healthier beings in society, and they're more disciplined in life and structured, knowing that they have certain times and accountabilities to things. And that's really great, because that also helps with the mental parts of their being, because if you're self-involved and you don't think about anything outside of yourself, we see a lot of mental illness that happen, and that's become very selfish and narcissistic. It leads to all types of other things, high rates of suicide, these types of things. But if you're thinking about others, and that's so important, in balance, of course, what we're trying to get to is that it breeds a lot more of a healthier state of being. So time is a very powerful thing. I mean, look at that. I mean, even the sport itself, right? Coming in under time, making the time,
Yeah.
doing eventing, and all that. So it's always great. And then time is in life, once again, I like to say that time is man's predator. Right? Time is man's predator. Because what happens is that, everything kind of feeds on each other. Like, for instance, the earth, the mineral is a mineral, and the plant life eats off of the earth, that the earth eats off of the sun, right? Then we have animals that eat plants, that eat the mineral, that eats the sun, right? Then we come along, we eat the animal, right? That eats the plant, that eats the mineral, that eats the sun. What eats us? Time. So time becomes our predator. And so that's such a it's the most valuable, most beautiful thing. I don't know if you know, I don't know, we talked about this, but past, but I had a near-death experience about, I don't know, maybe 5-6 years ago. Anyway, I was in the hospital. I was working in the desert with a client, and basically I've been pre-diabetic my whole life, and having to maintain diet, had to maintain, self-control and all that sort of stuff, because it was, I was fine. And then basically I felt like I had the flu. I came back, I was home, and I told the missus that I was going to be taking a nap. And then I woke up in the ICU about 4 or 5 days later. And
You mentioned that, yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a very pivotal point. I think it's a very, I mean, come on, eventers, aren't you? Everyone on a horse. I don't care what sport you're doing. You're on a horse, and and I think the risks are there for death, right? At every moment, I have to be walking across the street or whatever. Because the point I'm trying to make simply is that time is that valuable predator commodity that we are like, whoa, we don't know when that's going to happen, when it's going to come. So we should live in a way that's, very mindful of the time, to not waste it, to not squander it, to live each moment in the most, and that's another thing I do for my clients. Everyone loves, I joke around, we laugh a lot because it's important,
Yeah.
This might, to be mindful that this may be your last ride. I don't mean to be morbid. It's just fact. What I'm saying? It's just what it is. And if we're not in that reality, then I'm going to say you're being in a very naive and a dangerous place, even, because then you're not respecting the ride. And I've taught this in before, where it's like I share this so much with people, that the past is the depression. Okay, it's your past knowns or your past stories. Holding on to your past stories or knowns can lead to depression. The future is unknown, right? And that's anxiety. All right. So those are stories that have yet to be created, and that puts you in fear because it's an unknown, right? And this brings on anxiety. Then we have the moment, right? Which is where every, spiritualist or holistic educator wants us to be. We want to be in the moment. Okay. And if you're thinking about the next jump, when you still have one jump to go, when you're in the jump right now, you're going to be in trouble. I'll tell you that right now. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to be at that jump and giving it its attention that it needs, and then moving on, and we keep moving and go to the next. You had your opportunity to go and prepare. See, prepare was the walk around the course. You get to walk around and prepare yourselves mentally and try to physically put yourself. So it gives you what? Visualization. See, visualization is a very important holistic word. We're going to visualize what how we're going to make this, how we're going to do this, how we're going to do the course. So you're giving opportunity to prepare, because prepare, that's why we fear. Fear is lack of preparation.
Yeah.
Is that we don't prepare. I didn't prepare. I didn't study for my test. Now I'm afraid to take it. I didn't put enough time in memorizing the dressage test. Trust me, I did that one. I did my. I would never do dressage like that. Boy, I have so much respect for this sport. I can't tell you, it's my new favorite sport in the world. So amazing, so amazing. Okay, in so many ways, we can spend a whole episode on that. But time, because it all goes back to time, is basically what I'm saying. Time, rhythm, connection. These are all things that we talk about in the horse world. And so if you're not really connected to time, so be mindful of that. People who are wasting your time, you are wasting people's time. No one wants that feeling, right? Okay. So I want to give the amount of time necessary to my partners, as the partnership deserves.
Getting back, you talked a little bit about the mental wellness, and how do you help people achieve that?
Yeah, well, again, and I every time someone says this, it's funny, and I hear the word help, I have to go to my work, and that is that I don't help anyone.
Okay.
And it's very important. I'm not there to try to correct you. It just triggers me.
Yeah.
Because you have to understand that words have power, have meaning, and energy, and spirit. And when we convey those things, I try to assist, not help, or share, and or support my people, because I'm support crew. It's written on my credentials, support group. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that's we are. You know, we're supporters of each other. You know what I mean? And so that's important. I don't help anyone because the idea is that if I was telling someone, but if the idea is that if you help someone, like they're drowning, for instance, you're going to help them, I would have to knock you out, okay, in order to I use this a lot because it's like if we're both in there and you're panicking, you're going to drown both of us. So I have to subdue you some way in order for you to submit and surrender that feeling of panic and allow me to assist you and to support you to safety. Because if I help you, I'm gonna have to knock you out because you're not ready for that. You know, and it's like, and this is what we do in executive protection bodyguarding. It's just that we don't help our people. We have to support them and aid them to make good decisions and get them home safe. Because this help idea becomes enabling, and next thing you know, it becomes codependence and all the things that follow. So I prefer not to use that word because you're not helpless. You know, you're quite powerful, you're quite amazing, and I want to be a part of that journey. So I want to be assistance to you and a support to you, you know, and aid you. It's called first aid. It's not called first help.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great distinction.
Yeah, you know, save lives. It's all about first aid. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So how would you assist people?
Oh, yeah.
You know, again, I know it's kind of a generic, you know.
No, you have to forgive me. I'm quite esoteric in a lot of ways. It's very difficult for me to stay on track for us. So you'll have to forgive me if I do go on my little journey here of things. So I appreciate your effort. But yeah, one of the mental things is being present and being mindful, right? We're talking about the mental work, right? And so one of the things is that you know, and this is a very dangerous sport for sure, preventing these types of things, sportsmanship. But at the same time, we have to also understand that if we squeeze the fish, we're going to lose the fish. Okay. So we have to learn to relax. Okay. And we have to relax our mind states through forms of practices of meditation, you know, all types of visualization, any of these things that allow us to be relaxed being. Because a relaxed rider is the best rider. A relaxed horse is the best horse, you know? If we're relaxed in our mind and in our approach towards wellness, and that is the first thing I need to get my people for, like sleep, for instance. You know, I always joke with people, hey, which one's more important, being awake or being asleep, you know? And you're like, well, of course, being awake because it's more fun. But the idea is that for healing in the body and wellness, we prefer to sleep. That's why it's one of the primitive natures: eating, sleeping, sex, and work. You feel me? Because the idea is that it doesn't say eating, being awake. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you know, and these things is because we need to be in a restful state for healing. The body heals when it's in a restful state. The parasympathetic nervous system, you know, rest and digest. You know, we want to use that in our forms of healing and growth. And to be fair, that's why eventing is so fascinating to me, because I like to call it an elders person's game. I'm just keeping it real, or not even elders, but a mature person's game. You know, is that you have to have maturity in the sense of arising to what you know is a good definition for me for maturity. It's like, you know, you have to arise to what you know and have to apply it efficiently. You know, you have to calculate, you have to have strategy. There's so many variables in this sport that I find amazing. You know, the team, gosh. So it's like, so rest is just as important. And when I can, you know, my happiest moments with, you know, you all know Boyd and, you know, and whatnot, and I love speaking about him. He's amazing. It's just that these ideas, just that, you know, he understands that. He understands the importance of, you know, taking time come on now, he's got like, what, 5, 6 horses rolling at a time sometimes, you know, and it's just like, he knows to take time for himself, even in that. And that, my friend, is amazing because most people won't do that. Most people just muscle through and not take even like 10 minutes out of their, you know, come on, what's 10 minutes? You can find 10 minutes. We can all find the time inside of that show to be like, hey, let me be mindful. Let me just plug off, turn off, and just kind of recalibrate and readjust so that I can go to my next ride, and, you know, in a much more relaxed and safe way. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, is that something, for people who are so busy, or like, with Boyd, do you advise or assist them in carving out that time or meditating with them or?
Yes. Oh yeah. He does that. He knows. See, that's what I'm saying. It's not like everyone thinks it's like me going, "Hey, you do." No, 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 no. I just show up and ask and basically offer. You hear what I'm saying? I'm here and I don't tell people what to do. No, no, no. So,
Uh-huh.
no one. That's like me telling them how to ride. No, thank you. You know what you're doing. My job is simply to remind. You get what I'm saying? And I'm there as a thing of relax. And it's like, okay, hey, it's time to stretch because it's time to take that that break. And really, he knows it. He starts to get filled up, and once you start, you really want to have that to your program because it's that important.
Hmm.
We think that everyone keeps thinking that they're going to muscle their way through something. It's just like that's ego. And that ego is not the way to go because in any sport, where it's a warrior sport, you're going to end up on your ass before you know it. Can I say ass? I apologize. It's like I'm an urban mystic. You know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Well, and I think Boyd had talked a little bit, especially this past weekend at Kentucky, about how, an hour before each horse, he'll work with you, on those things, both like physically stretching.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Like I said,
And
it's a component of all the things, right? Because you have. Oh, let's talk about the physical aspects. Yes, for sure. I don't understand. I see a lot of it. I don't understand why people just jump on a horse. I'm at an age now, and I keep it real. It's like I used to do yoga for fun. Now I do it for survival. That's it.
uh-huh.
I can't understand how someone could just jump on a horse without stretching. Like for real. Like
Yeah.
I'm not capable. There's a lot of people who can't. But I find that over the years, a lot of the bodies are tight, very, very, very tight, very, very tight. Ooh, hams are tight, quads are tight, ass is tight, and they're uptight. And I can tell that too in the riding. I'm like, okay. There's a lot of uptight riders, and it's kind of like, you think you're gonna do well being uptight. It's the opposite. It's like you have to be in flow with the universe. I mean, that's why I love the sport because of the variables.
Uh-huh.
Weather. Listen, one time I was at the farm. I was at Windgura with Boy, and we were. It was funny. I have lots of pictures. He's so cool about these ideas of what he's doing. So I go, hey, it was raining. I mean, it was like I just moved to Pennsylvania. All right, those Pennsylvania storms, whoa, are crazy. And so I think it's gonna be like a tornado. It's coming down. And I'm like, I'm like from a safety and I'm like safety. Hey, boy, let's pull it in. You know what I mean? Let's go. He's like, hey, mate, yeah, the conditions. I might have to ride the conditions. Like kind of like how he does. I can't.
Yeah.
He's out there riding and jumping in the damn rain, and I'm sitting there like, oh man. And guess what? Kentucky every year, right? Pretty much we got. You guys know this. I mean, obviously it's not something, but I just find it again. So I would advise, come on in. But no, right? In that moment, that's earlier on. I'm sitting there, but that's what you trained in, right? Because the conditions are not going to be suitable for you every time. Your stirrup might break in the middle of, when you're riding, and you better be trained enough to be able to. I've seen that going down, several times. It's like, whoa, that's amazing, right?
Right.
So life throws you lemons, and you have to be able to adapt to making that wonderful lemonade. And training. So I find it fascinating when I hear people complaining about conditions, like when it's about a thing. Yeah, the conditions suck. The things might not be going your way. This kind of a thing. But the reality of the situation is that the great ones adjust, adhere, and do the damn thing. You know what I mean? And that's why I love scrappers. And I like people who really just don't have the means and all the things and make their way.
Right. Right.
To grit, as we like to say. So mental toughness is all about these things. It's about really having the ability to shift the narrative, shift the narrative of your stories, and shift the ideas that you've had, your conditionings that you've had.
When you say, shift your narrative, why is that important? And can you give some examples of how you help or, common things that people have to work on?
There's so many stories that one can hold on to. And when I'm coaching, and getting people past these stories, that there are stories, it's not where we are now, There's the funniest joke, the funny kind of adage of the past is history, the future's a mystery, this moment's a gift. That's why it's called the present. It's really a gift to us to stay in this moment of understanding and not focus on our past known stories. I used to do this. I used to be this person. I used to be that person. But that's not who you are now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's weakness if you use your past to support your present. It's a weakness when you are fearful of an unknown that you haven't yet to even experience or try. Now, that's the beautiful part of being a high performance coach, because I'm working with people who are at, who might say that they have gotten to their dream, and then I'm like, oh, now you might have met your physical dreams, but how is it now in your state of being now that you have that dream? Do you get what I'm saying? So there's an idea of, like, for instance, you could be rich, but you're not wealthy. You can be smart, but you're not wise. So there's always these steps that you can do to become a better, more fuller, person when you're on this kind of train and when you're training and when you're trying to be at the top of your game, and that's in service, I mean, I'm sorry, but we talked about Boyd, but like Philip doesn't know it the other day. And I don't know if he was going to be okay with this story or not, but I'm telling you, that's just what I do. It's crazy, amazing. I think it was Liv just got off of her horse, and there was some woman there. I couldn't remember who was next, but she, the bit wasn't correct. We'll just say. I'm trying not to get all the technical stuff because I'm giving away who it was. But anyway, bit problems, you know what I'm saying, and all types of other issues. And it was just like, and then the person asked, "Hey, do you have another bit or an extra bit?" And without really even a beat, Philip just was like, "Hey, I got you." Not like he doesn't say that. Philip would say, "I got you," but I'd say, he's like, "I got you." And then and without like a thing, it was just this wonderful moment. And see, these are the things I look for when I work with high performers. Is that he took the bit, and broke down the whole, with a double or whatever, broke it down, and then helped out the other writer. You know what I mean? Assist the other writer. See what happens when we start saying that word. But assist the other writer, to be able to compete. That, my friend, right there is like what movies are like made of, or that's the spirit of horseman or horsemanship or sports. Period. Like that's what you want to see and feel. That was bigger than for me. That was a big one. And then like back in the day, or when Boyd won back in Aiken, you know what I mean, on Annie's horse, like what? My God, if you could, if I were if I had the dough and the Hollywood producing, I got some connects. I'm gonna work that out. But let me tell you, that day, wasn't that perfect and magical? Oh my God! I'm like got choked up. I was like, oh my Lord, you know what I mean? Because it was just like that's what this sport does. You know what I mean? And it just was like this idea of sportsmanship and compassion for animals, for human decency, it's just a lot. And I'm sure there's a lot of people you can say, oh yeah, well there's all this too. Yeah, that's too. If you want to stick your head into it, you're going to find shit. Oh, I said it again. My urban mysticism came out. I apologize. But don't go looking for it if it's not there. If people who are successful don't have time for all the negative, as much, it's just like you got work to do. You focus on the work. And if you focus on without that negativity, becomes worship in the world of the spirit. Work becomes worship. Isn't that wonderful? Like the idea that you're spending this much time with something that the Great Spirit can recognize. You're in nature, you're serving, you're doing so much, you're passionate, you're putting your heart and soul into something that it becomes worship. I enjoy that. So all that to be said is that's a mental state, that's a mental attitude that one has to have, is this idea is to get back on the horse. Philip, everyone was there for that one. Oh my God, Kentucky this year was amazing, because I felt it was just like, again, I call it, or listen to that interview that even Jenny said, it was about the heart, it's this heart thing. And I just love that, it's like taking something that has a heart is everything. He got back on that horse, not because he's trying to just win. It's because he's trying to share. This is all my interpretation, by the way. I'm letting you know, being very clear that it's art. It is like he loves what he does. And you can see that. You love writing. You're going to struggle. You're going to get up and you're going to pull that leg over and you're going to squeeze with all you got and to finish. You get what I'm saying? Like that was just, for me, my friend, woo. I just that stuff, I go right there. I go, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I wish the world and everyone could see things like this, and it happens in many things, but that was very powerful. That shows when the heart, the mind, and the spirit are connected. That's what it looks like.
Yeah. And that was when, just so if people aren't familiar with it, that was when he was, he almost fell off of his horse. And I mean, it felt like several minutes, but I'm sure it was just a minute or two where he was on the neck and kind of managed to get himself back in the saddle.
Yeah. And y'all do remember he's like, what, 60? Come on now. I probably another 15. I'm not even messing around. I mean, this man, that just showed me the ability. You get what I'm saying? Like, we've worked hard. He's been working hard. He's fit. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's fitness. You get what I'm saying? And it's just the commitment. I just loved it. It was amazing.
Yeah. And how, especially, like a lot of amateur riders kind of bring it to amateur levels, they get very nervous about competing. How, is there any advice you have for them?
Yes. The idea, I love this. Good question. Okay. Because you're saying nervous. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to create that to nervous system. Okay. Nervous system. So everything follows systems. Okay. So there must be laws, rules, regulation, and safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are systems. Okay. If it's free, let's just say the word free. Free is negative to me. I don't want anything free. I've done free many times and I just paid more for it later.
Okay.
I had a cousin that was like, hey, let me come fix your hub for free. I was like, hey, it ended up having to cost more to get it redone, and all things free. Anyway, so free is outside of laws, rules, regulation, and safety, right? Okay. Freedom is what we really want. Freedom, right? Freedom, that's a beautiful word. Freedom is it has laws, it has rules, it has education, it has safety, it has all the things that allows me to sleep comfortably at night. Say comfortably, that's really one place I don't want to be comfortable. But the idea is having my comforts. Comforts are positive. Comfortable is negative. Well, how are those two positive ones negative? Well, comforts are positive. Comfortable is negative if I'm attaching myself to my comforts. Ooh, slow down. Should I say it again?
Yes.
All right. Comforts are positive. Comfortable is negative. What makes things comfortable? My attachments to my comforts.
Mm-hmm.
Oof. Okay. So what happens is that I'm attached to my way I like to do my world. I'm attached to my community, that there's no other outsiders coming in. You get what I'm saying? Because it brings me so much safety. That makes me comfortable. Ooh, you see what I'm saying? If you see what I'm saying? The rabbit hole goes deep. You get what I'm saying? It keeps going because we start looking at having comforts are fine. But then once I start having my attachments to my comforts, it becomes comfortable. And in my comfortable state, right? This is really fascinating. You think you're actually positive in your comfortability. But in actuality, comfortability breeds nervousness.
Huh. Okay.
Because you're attached, that means you're going to have to protect that shit, right? So you're nervous, but someone's going to come in and take it, right?
Okay. Uh-huh.
So there's this nervousness. Now I'm going to equate that back to our question, but just stay with me. So that's why we fear, right? We have fear of an unknown entity that's coming to mess up my comforts.
Uh-huh.
My comfortable state. Okay. So I love being uncomfortable. Oh my God. I love it. You got to learn to love it. You got to learn to love being uncomfortable. Okay. Look at me. Shit, I walk around. It makes people uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
The event people uncomfortable. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the people that that want to take a chance are going to find that you pass that. So when you're nervous, we have to say in our business and in holistic protection, I say my job is also to assist with safeguarding your nerves. Oof. Okay. Safeguarding the nerves, which is basically safeguarding your nervous system. Okay.
Yeah.
So I want chill. I want peace, right? You want, okay. Who doesn't want that? I want to offer you that, Sandy, is, hey, can I give you some peace? Can I offer you some comfort? Some, not being comfortable because you'll be attached to me. No, thank you. But the comforts, you know what I'm saying? Okay?
Yeah.
The idea that nervous energy is this idea of that, you're not allowing yourselves to go into your uncomfortable place, right? And making peace with that. See, so we have no problems making peace with our comforts. I can tell you all the things that make me happy. But if I ask a person what makes them sad, it's very, I'm sorry, excuse me, it's the other way around. I can find all the things that make me sad or angry or pissed, but it's very difficult for me to find out what brings me peace. Very heavy. Think about this. Now, I ask people all the time. I go, hey, what brings you joy? I don't know. Riding my horse. That's about it. But the idea is that, it's about the self-care. Again, if you're spending more money on your horse than you are on your self-care, I don't care. I'm putting it out there. It's an imbalance. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I'm sorry. And I know you, and that's most people. So if you're going, if I say, I had a friend the other day, and he feeds his dog scraps from his, he feeds him, like when he makes the dog food. It's trippy. Okay, I'm this is me, all right? But he makes the dog food. He eats when the dog eats when he eats. You get me? That's the part, right? So I said, I kind of like it. Okay, I can get with it because that's kind of how I feel. That I would like for you all to take this message home. That it's almost like if you go out drinking, you drink one thing of alcohol, or 1 cup of alcohol, you should have at least 2 cups of water. All right, kind of an idea just to make sure. All right, if you drink, okay. But my thing is simply the same. If my horse is getting chiropractic treatments and magno waved, I better be at the gym. I better be at the sauna. I better have you call me. Damn it, I'll come over. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, it's just that. We gotta take. It's not self first. Is not selfish.
Right.
You have to take care of yourself. If you are not taking care of yourself, you're not taking care of your horse. I can see it. Trust me. If you're taking care of your horse, so much that you're in a financial burden that it's causing you so much stress, you're not enjoying your ride, and you're not going to be well.
Well, I was thinking back to when we were talking about like people who get nervous when they're competing, and you were talking about comforts versus comfortable.
Yeah, and that was basically a roundabout way of really just getting back to that. Like for me personally, when I perform, because I feel like Shakespeare, that the world is a performance each day, and that the world's a stage, and so I don't get performance anxiety that way because I have to show up, But the idea again is that when everything is not to the point of everything, when most things are aligned well in my life, and you have to remember that it's not about the outcome of the experience, it is about the experience itself. Will create less nerves.
Okay.
Again, outcome, where's outcome? If I was using my timeline again holistically, that would be where? In the future. It's an unknown. I can't tell you what's going to happen. I can't tell you. No one's a psychic to that level. I'm also a little frustrated with that. A lot of people think that. But the idea is that if we do the things that are necessary on the ground first, I guarantee the performance on your horse is going to be a lot better in the nerves if you're staying in the moment, right? Because that's where we're supposed to be. If you're thinking about the outcome and that's the nervousness, that's anxiety. So I want to name that nervousness. So someone can't just tell me, oh, I'm nervous. It doesn't work that way for me in my work. My work goes, oh, you're nervous. Oh, well, can you tell me what you're nervous about? You get what I'm saying? Right? And it's like, what? And then once you start to break down exactly what it is that are so-called the things that are nervous to making that person nervous, then we can start to, obviously correct those actions and behaviors. But if you're just going to, that's like I'm saying, it's like, I'll give you a joke. This is a big one. All right. Okay, well, might as well go here. It's like saying I'm unsafe, right? Like, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
I don't know. No. You have to name it. Okay, I need you to name it, people. Please start naming it. If you can't name it, say, you know what? I'm feeling this feeling like I'm unsafe, and I can't really quite name it quite yet. But I would like, to work with that. We can start doing the work, because that's where the work is for me, right? And that's what we start doing as a coach, as a performance coach. I have to begin to start really getting into the depths of what is really holding someone back from being the best person they can be, right? But they have to start naming it. And then they have to have trust and safety, right, to be able to do that. Or they may not even know the words to knowing what it is. So we have to assist with that. So when someone says they're nervous at a thing, that's just what you're feeling in that moment. But we don't know what that nervousness is until we can try to get to naming it, what it is. So I can't say right now in this interview to be like, oh, what are the techniques? Well, I can give you broad techniques. But to be fair, most of it's either in the past or in the future. You're not nervous in the moment. Nervous in the moment is adrenaline. I love that one. Yes. Give it to me all day. Adrenaline. I'm about the adrenaline. It's good stuff. Because you're not thinking about the past or the future. You're in the moment of the high. Hello. And that's why Avengers, I think, love that shit. Because they're hooked in it. It's good stuff. I want it. But no, it's really for real. It's like you want nervousness. That nervous energy will dissipate if you stay in the moment. That's how I know. I know automatically that you're not in the moment. Because the people that are in the moment when they're nervous, they're psyched up, ready to go. Hello, let's go. And it's not being fearless or any of those things.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. We're kind of, I don't want to take up more of your time, and I feel like we covered a lot of bases. So I'd love to chat with you another time, and we can kind of continue to break it down.
Yeah. Break it down. I like that. Break it down. Yes. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this week's conversation with Ruben Mahboobi. For more information, you can find him on Instagram at Rubee. That's at G-U-R-U-B-E-E. You can also learn more about him at gurubee.org. That's Gurubee.org. Thanks also to the episode's sponsor, Boehringer Ingelheim. To learn more about Boehringer Ingelheim's philosophy of care, visit theartofhorse.com. Finally, you can subscribe to the Practical Horseman podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're there, please rate and review the show. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Sandra Olinick, and you've been listening to the Practical Horseman podcast.